Original Firefighter is the podcast and apparel brand that celebrates the heritage and traditions of the American Fire Service. Join us each week for lively discussions that aim to inspire, educate, and entertain, all in the effort to support mental health and well-being for first responders. Please subscribe, hit that bell, and follow us wherever you listen. Let's get into the show. Hey guys, welcome to the Original Firefighter Podcast. I am your host, Will Peterson, and in the studio with us is the original group. And what a great show we have. We got a few segments to get through, but as we were getting into the episode, we started talking about Beavis and Butthead. And we just, oh boy, that's where everyone just shut it off right there. They're like, nope, gosh. Not this one.
They were my introduction to Anthrax.
Really? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They were wearing the T-shirts?
Yeah.
If you were going to be one of them, Rob, who would you be? Would you be Beavis or Butthead? If you had to go out on Halloween and dress as one of them, which one would you be?
Butthead.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beavis was a little, his energy level was a little bit too much for me.
Too much? But, remember, shut up, Beavis.
Shut up, Beavis.
Yeah.
SNL is not that funny that often to me, but their Beavis and Butthead recently was
when he was sitting in the audience behind the.
Yeah, so good.
Which one was playing? So was it the actors or was it Ryan Gosling?
Yeah.
Okay. Which one was he? Was it?
He was Beavis.
He was Beavis.
Yeah.
Then who was the other one playing Butthead?
Who played Butthead?
I don't know who that was.
Yeah, I couldn't figure that one out either. Maybe
the costume was so good
that
I was
good.
like, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah.
I think it's Beavis.
Yeah.
Or Butthead.
Right. Anyway, speaking of cartoons, as we get into the first segment, we're starting to break some things down in the Original Firefighter Podcast and getting ourselves a bit organized. You'll see that we have if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that we actually stepped up our technology game here with an actual
high tech
computer. Yeah, we're going high tech here with the computer in the studio.
Command Central.
Right.
We also stepped up our coffee technology.
Yes.
I just want to know. I want everyone to know how serious we are about.
Yeah, we're committed. Yeah, this is Rob's contribution.
That's Rob's
to the episode.
Cafeína.
Yeah. This is actually what every firefighter would do, though.
Yeah.
Like they would bring the biggest coffee cup in and outdo everybody else in the firehouse.
Yeah.
The Firehouse Kitchen Table Chat is going to be our first segment here, and what we're going to get into is the continuous shit show of the LA fires. I was just kind of wanting to, kind of keep our eye and have a pulse of what's going on out there. Previous episode, we talked about the firing of the fire chief out there and how the mayor basically is scapegoating her. And that we've already had some other comments that have come in and said, they should all be let go. They should all be fired, terminated, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. But if we're going to pick and choose one or the other, again, we stand firm here that the Mayor Bass of LA City is making the fire chief out to be the scapegoat of the century.
We did get a comment specifically about that.
Yeah.
Sean, I'm not going to pronounce this right, so I'm going to spell it Mierczynski 3. Mierczynski.
Okay.
Commented, my dad was a firefighter paramedic. I'm telling you right now, any department needs a chief like Crowley who's loyal to fault to their department.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that probably echoes our sentiment.
Absolutely. That's a great comment. And, again, when you're in the fight of your life, sure, someone out there, and especially in a team aspect, which is every city at this point in time, yes, you have your fire chief, you have your police chief, but what you have is an emergency response team nowadays. You have an emergency management team, you have emergency operations centers that get opened up under the most extreme situations. This all occurred during the hurricanes that happen anytime that there's any massive event, which LA fires, this obviously meets that criteria. Now, the mayor, fill in the name, does typically act as the top executive within that EOC and within that emergency management team, but is supported by the experts. And in this case, right, the fires being the hazard that's literally threatening everything.
Yeah.
And your top, your expert in the room, you look to your fire chief.
Right.
You look to your rank and file. You go down into the depths and you look to that bench to see how deep it is to try to fix the problem. The problem is, as we've stated before, is that before this tragedy even occurred, that those people, the fire chief and all the other ranks and files, they don't realize how much that their legs were already being cut off at.
Right.
They don't, like we started to say, if you don't have water, if you don't have hydrants that work,
right,
or reservoirs of water in reserve, and if you don't pay attention to the weather reports, you don't have any kind of like your eye on the ball, so to speak, and you're the mayor. Like and you're just like, no, I have to wait for everybody else to come tell me something before I make any decision. It's
was the termination, and I think I know the answer to this, is that a political move, or is that she's the buck stops here person that made the decisions that put him in that spot? Or was it
I would argue that the mayor is where the buck stops. So it was a political. It was,
and the mayor can't
saving her own skin.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
He's not going to resign. Going, that's my fault.
Right.
They're just going to go next in line. Yep. That head's going to roll, and it's.
Well, she didn't act as the mayor when the disaster was happening. So she started to act like a mayor after the fact.
Well, and rewind even
firing the fire chief was her way of going, I am the mayor and I'm making a decision, right? But again, we go back to but we don't want to look back. Don't look back at the problem. We want to go forward, and that kept being said over and over.
When you get into that emergency situation, you're having to listen to the person in command, fire chief or whoever it is, to get through the situation. You're all ears. But for the decades leading up to that moment, you're just deaf to the plight of the fire department and the plight of the people of California. So it's like, it just seems like poor decisions were made. They didn't value the input of the fire department leading up to this emergency.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the fire department couldn't resolve the issue because they were under resourced with manpower or with water or apparatus or whatever it is, now it's their fault.
Yeah.
Which is just stupid.
Well, they right. So that whole, the West Coast, it's a target-rich environment for wildfires.
Right.
We know this. You can be living in New Jersey.
That's brand new information.
Yeah. And it's like everybody knows that. And how that doesn't rise to the level of the governor's office, to have people working all 4 seasons, basically, all Q quarters of a year. Like there should be emphasis on how are we going to control this if they always are happening to a degree now, but what if the big one hits?
Yeah.
The big one hits. New Orleans found this out with Katrina, right?
Right.
They realized that the levees can break.
Yeah.
They and then when they rebuilt, what did they do? They built them up higher, and they're going to have to do this out there as well. But here's the real thing that I want to get into. So now, the fires are out. The body count's there. The property loss is just staggering. Now what people are, and we're talking specifically about the citizens of these areas, LA City and Palisades and so on. So now the people that have houses that are still standing and they're starting to migrate back into their homes. So this was reported on Wednesday by NBC News. What they're coming home to is basically a poisonous house because of all the carcinogens that are inside their homes.
So burnt plastic releasing carcinogens.
Yeah. See, so go. So imagine a house that basically appears to be untouched.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So here you have these homes that they you could actually effectively, you could kind of move back in.
Sure.
But as you go in, they're like, wait a minute, there is soot all over in the house, right?
Yeah.
So you have smoke and soot damage, right? And and then you have insurance that does cover for that type of thing. However, the thing that's actually happening now is that the insurance companies out there are saying that they'll only cover things that can be claiming damages that can be calculated by the naked eye. And that's the reporting. The aspect of it is people are coming in with children and they're going, wait a minute, I can't just wipe the surface down and have the soot kind of go away and I can't just ventilate the house and hope that natural air takes care of the particles.
Yeah.
Any porous surface will capture those carcinogens and those particles that are, toxic. You're basically you're moving into a poisonous, toxic house.
So if they have the house tested and it tests high for carcinogens and is unlivable,
Yep.
they're just left hanging out to dry.
So that is kind of to be determined. So what it appears to look like is that the insurance companies are slow walking everything, and they're also lowballing the cleanup effort. So if I have a claim and my claim is I need soot removal and ventilation, a total cleaning of the house. So what it appears to be is that the insurance companies are giving lowball payouts for that type of thing. If you want to go further, for example, if you want like a toxic test to be done on your atmosphere and in your environment, these tests are running like $20,000, and the insurance companies are like, yeah, no, we're not paying for that. We pay basically. I looked this up. They're basically they're claiming damages can only be calculated by what can be seen by the naked eye, and the problem with that is that but you can't see a lot of this. And so therefore you have to end up with
you have that test done yourself.
Pretty much.
You pay that $20,000, which
right.
I know money is money, but
right.
the people that lived in those houses have $20,000 most likely.
Well, but the problem is though.
And so if you spend the $20,000 and it comes back and then this house is shot,
right?
It's unsavable, not to the visual eye, but you can't live in it without getting cancer.
Right. Because we're talking about.
Can you come back to the insurance agency then and say, yeah, visually it's not burnt to the ground, but you can't live
I don't
in
know
it.
that. I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that one. What I kind of drive towards is sort of this common sense approach. Mm-hmm. Let's not pretend to be stupid here.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is like, they're kind of playing like ignorant, the insurance companies, when it's like, no.
Willful ignorance.
You know what these people are, up against. You know that given what we saw, what we witnessed, kind of like as horrified spectators of what was going on out there. You know that those people that are able to go back into their houses, those houses are toxic traps of all the things that were in the air, and now they've been collected and settled into these houses, and these people are trying to get back in. Some of them are paying rent to be able to live somewhere, plus get back into their house, probably carrying still a mortgage of some sort, plus now having to do maybe say a $20,000 atmospheric toxic test study to see what they get back. At some point, it's like we always lose. The insurance company knows how.
It's aggravating.
It's so aggravating.
Insurance is gamble. It's a gamble.
Yeah.
It should be a gamble on both sides.
Yeah.
To a degree. I mean, I know they're for profit, but it's a gamble, and it's almost like, hey, the house lost big, and now they're trying to figure out
the house
a
always
way
wins.
that you cheated, so they can kick you out of the casino.
You got it.
And if they can't figure it out, they'll change the rules.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
They lost the gamble, and now they want to bail. Hey.
I was looking this up that there's households that they're having to tear their walls out. So these are, again, painting the picture is that imagine that your house that you live in right now, it wasn't touched by the fire. You don't walk in. There's nothing. Your house looks to be in order for the most part. Mm-hmm. You notice heavy dusting in your house. That's probably the soot. You try to start cleaning it and whatnot, but then you start to think about like, I have a bunch of insulation all over in this house. It's in the walls, it's in the roof. And people are like, I have to dig all of this out because you can't. I mean, that's what insulation does, right? It keeps things in or out, if you will. And I mean, we've all seen what that look, what it looks like. It traps everything. It's cotton candy that just fucking grabs everything, right?
Don't eat it though.
Don't eat it. Don't eat that. So anyways, going further is that this goes back to some of the news reported by NBC this week where they make reference to last year before the fires. This was before the fires. Be clear about that. Residents of California, State Farm announced that they were dropping coverage for 72,000 houses and apartments. Mm-hmm. They blamed the cost associated with inflation, catastrophic exposure, the possibility of that, and reinsurance and regulations, the need to protect their bottom line. So State Farm dropped all that. And my question to you guys, and I'll just kind of pause after I ask this question is, so why doesn't everybody just cancel State Farm? I mean, I don't know how that works. What do you guys think? I mean, can we do that? Can we just be like, you know what? Why are we supporting these companies?
Right.
I have choices. Can't I just say, you know what? I'm not staying with you?
It has to be a coordinated effort in order for them to feel it. And that's what, you see these protests. Nobody gas up for a day. Yeah, great.
I don't know if it will work or not, but what do you think?
I think a lot of it comes down to how much pain can you endure to try to cancel a company like that. So, I work with an insurance broker to pull together all my insurance. So we're not just going to hey, State Farm, what can you give me on all these services, right? It's like we might get these services from here and these from here, and we're kind of pulling the best of all those worlds. And,
So do you think it's better to have all your stuff under one umbrella, or do you think it's better to do an a la carte?
Okay, so I would prefer to have a one-stop shop where everything that I need done in case of an emergency or in case of a claim is all being processed through the same group that has the same information that can see everything. Here's the problem. We've moved, maybe it was never this way. In my mind, ideally, I hope that at some point an insurance company was started out of the idea that, you know what, we can help people and we can make a buck. I feel like the former of those two things is just gone. It's like, how do we make a buck?
How do you make a buck?
How do we make $2? How do we make as much money off of these people as we can?
Yeah.
And yes, there is a rise in the rate of catastrophic events. Mm-hmm. So they're feeling the pinch a lot more now.
Yeah.
But the fact
Thanks a lot, Obama.
The fact that they keep changing the rules to make sure that they never lose is like, okay, but then what you're telling us is you're never going to lose even at the expense of your customers' loss.
Yeah.
They're going to lose no matter what. Like in the best of circumstances, you both win a little. They win more, but they're not going to lose, right? I had a situation where we had a catastrophic event. There was a derecho storm, what it's called. It's basically a straight wind tornado event. It ripped through Rockford, happened to go right through our neighborhood, destroyed all of the trees and everything in the college that's right behind us. Our home sustained damage. We needed a new roof. We had water coming in through the windows during that event, so we needed new windows. We needed siding had been ripped off, so we needed that replaced. And I'm just gonna say it: State Farm.
Yeah.
Right. We'll cover one side of the siding of your house. We're not going to do windows because we can't guarantee that they weren't installed improperly 30 years ago whenever the house was built. Okay, so we go through all this hassle with them. We're like, okay, what are you going to do? Right? So they outlined the portion that they're going to do, and we're like, it makes no sense. Any homeowner knows this. if you're going to rip off the siding on your house, that's the time to do the windows, right? If you're going to rip off the roof, that's the time to do the soffits. Like, otherwise you're doubling down on labor. Well, yeah, that stuff too. But like, there's an efficiency that comes with doing multiple things at the same time. So we paid the difference to have all these things done at the same time. We get through that process, finalize our claim, and then State Farm goes, we're no longer going to insure you. And it just dropped us.
Yeah.
It's like you because I think we had maybe 2 claims in a few years or something like that.
Right.
Minor claims, like a leak that got fixed and whatever, like things that you own insurance for, right?
Right.
In my mind, as a simple resident and homeowner, that's the way I think. I pay out a certain amount every month so that when something big happens, I'm not absorbing that big cost all at once, right? So they dropped us. And because they drop you, now it makes it that much more difficult to get insurance through another provider.
Does it?
Yeah, it does.
I have not gone through that. So
like if you have a few claims on your record, like you've got to go, I think, I don't know, it's 4 or 5 years since your last claim before insurance companies will treat you like you're not.
It's like you end up with a bad driving record.
Right? Totally, yeah. And you like did nothing minor, totally like, oh, I thought that's why we had this service, right? I thought that's why we were paying you all those thousands of dollars.
I could understand if I was the one up on the roof with the ball peen hammer, just smashing my roof in and then trying to, like that's on me.
Yeah, and that's not what this is. So anyway, my disdain for insurance companies is high, but I also know that the service that they provide is necessary. Unless you're gonna, unless you have the margin in your budget to go like, I'm gonna put away all this money every month and then I'm gonna be my own insurer. Even at that, legally, you still have to have insurance. Right. So it's a forced cost that sometimes doesn't even pay out. So I would love to cancel or completely overhaul at least the insurance industry, so that they're actually serving the people that are paying them. I asked that question,
Rob, I'll bring you in here. I asked that question knowing that if that's not possible, I can already kind of understand that there's probably reasons why. Like if I drop especially if I'm living in a area that's already been determined to be like, hey, this is high risk to begin with. So the fact that you even have
you have some ownership over that,
right? You're lucky to have what you have, kind of thing. So then those people that are stuck with, say, a State Farm, and then I'm on the show suggesting, well, let's just all cancel it, right? Because but you see the point that I'm trying to make is that we want to stick it back to them for all the years that we're getting it stuck up our ass.
Right now, you're in a situation. You're sitting here and you're calculating how much you should win. Right. Should I win this one or should I just pay for it myself so I don't get kicked out of the casino?
Right. Yeah, so it's ridiculous.
I got rear-ended by a woman with no insurance. I was on the phone to the police station asking about the report. And the woman on the phone told me half of drivers in Rockford don't have insurance on their cars. They get it for a month to buy the car, and then they don't pay it, and they get canceled out, and they keep driving the car.
That's like a huge problem in the state of Florida. Yeah, that's why their car. It's one of the reasons that their car insurance is so high. Is because so many people are out there without insurance.
So I got rear-ended, and immediately I got out of my car, and I went back to her car, and I could see that it looked like she was living out of her car. Right, like all of her belongings were in the back, and I'm like, definitely no insurance. So I'm like, I'm just gonna pay this myself because I'm not gonna turn it into insurance because I don't want this on my record.
Right, you're filing a claim that'll never get paid, but the claim still goes on your record.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
makes me so mad.
Hell yeah. Like I'm not going to win this one. I'm not going to win this one. I'm going to let insurance win this one and get out of it because I don't want my insurance to go up. I don't want to get canceled. And so you're going, I can't win this one. Yeah. And we're always calculating that. Should I pay for it? Or is this big enough for them to turn in? or to turn in and have them pay it.
I'll say too, like, I'm not trying to discredit the fact that there are good people that work in these companies. There are, for sure. It's the industry itself that is corrupt. It's the high-end offices, like the C-suite level people that are also trying to make sure their shareholders are happy and all that stuff. Like, it's a money grab, but you don't, like, it doesn't just stop at house insurance, car insurance. When you're dealing with medical insurance and the healthcare networks, again, there are fantastic people that work in the healthcare networks. Some of them want nothing more than to help, the patients that are coming into their facilities. But the way that they have to work with insurance to make all that stuff happen, it's like the people that can pay get hosed, and the people that can't pay get the same level of care and service and all that. So there's definitely just the system is broken.
Yeah, there's the great people. There's great people that work in there. It's the people that are accountable to the shareholders who are making the calls because they gotta turn profits.
Yeah. Is there a system that's not broken? It's funny because when you said that, I immediately was like, that is, I agree with you, but that statement is thrown around all the time. We talk about, if we talk about healthcare costs, if we talk about health insurance, right now we're talking about property insurance, right? Is there a system that's not broken?
I don't think that there is, because all of these systems, what we're talking about is people and decisions and processes, right? And people, inherently, there will always be somebody who is going to be influenced by greed or by power or by whatever. So like any system that's made up of people, it can't be perfect.
I just wondered if is that just a way for us to sort of collectively agree that we just don't like the way the system is set up and the way that it is functioning. I mean, the systems do function, and somebody, the C-suite type people, like you said, the shareholders and that type of thing, they're getting rich.
Yeah, it's greed and corruption,
that's
man.
That's the point, is that they're a profitable. Yeah. They're a for-profit entity.
So when you look at other countries though that have social health care, right? I was just having this conversation with my kids the other day. I'm like, you wouldn't have to pay for this and this and this and this and this, but you're going to get to take home 30% of your paycheck or whatever it is. At the end of the day, it's like you are paying for it. You're just paying.
That also is it's misleading. Yeah. And the reason why I say that, and just to kind of make it a high level type conversation here about health insurance, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole necessarily, but the point of the socialized healthcare is, you can absolutely do that. Countries are doing that. It's big over in Europe. Fine. But remember that mostly what they're referring to is your day-to-day well-being in those situations. When you need the kidney transplant and you're on socialized healthcare, it's a whole different story. That's what so here in America, yes, it can be difficult to, I don't like all the aspects of our healthcare.
Right.
But I'm not worried about, the skin irritation that I might get from time to time. What I'm worried about is, what if I need the big surgery? Yeah. And I want it here in America.
Which is why we have insurance.
This is why we have insurance. Yeah. So
it's not the my window broke and I got to replace it. It's my roof blew off my house.
Right.
I mean, it's two completely different things. Anyway, but they treat the window and the roof
the commercials
the same.
make it look good.
Oh yeah,
like you're
awesome,
in good
man.
hands with Allstate.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, something's happening. So they snap their fingers and
it's
done.
If I say Outcast too many times, he's going to show up in my kitchen
that's like healthcare
call
insurance
Jake
companies.
from State Farm for me.
That's like healthcare insurance commercials where everyone looks like because they're taking this drug, they're having a party.
Yeah. May cause leaky bowels.
Yeah. And they're out there dancing. Yeah. They're always at a barbecue. It's the 4th of July.
It's Ludacris, not Outkast, right?
Yeah.
Ludacris.
Well, that's just a little bit of a look at what's happening out in the West Coast. Here's what we're going to talk about happening out in the East Coast. Did you all tune into what I call the 5th State of the Union address by our 47th president? This episode of the Original Firefighter Podcast is sponsored by Castle Contracting. Castle Contracting offers commercial and residential restoration, leading the industry in roofing, residential siding, gutters and downspouts, egress window installation, storm damage assessment and repair, and solar energy, saving you money and time. If you want to be treated like royalty, contact Castle Contracting to schedule a free inspection. Call them at 877-512-4207 or go online and visit castleexteriors.net. That's 877-512-4207 or go online and visit castleexteriors.net. Serving Illinois, Wisconsin, and Kentucky, Castle Contracting has you covered. Your home is your castle. Call Castle Contracting today. Did y'all watch the State of the Union?
I watched that. It was entertaining.
It's a bowl of popcorn. I mean, that was something.
Had something for everybody.
Well, not the left. There wasn't a lot.
There's a lot of silence.
There was a lot of silence on the left there, and we're going to break that down just a little bit. So the fifth, or the State of the Union, the first of the second term for our 47th president, and he made a statement during. He made a lot of statements during his address. He did call out that this was his fifth time being there, which all the things that have happened, we've kind of talked about some of that stuff on the show, and it's just percolating out there across the country. But it's like in his mind, he's like, you can almost hear his inner thought going, I'm going to be back here 3 more fucking times too. So you better suck it up. Anyways, just to break it down a little bit. So that, I don't know if it was that day or the day before. So they blocked the bill to ban men playing in women's sports.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then they wore the pink.
I just can't believe the optics of that and how you tee that up so high for the right, the Republicans.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and this could even be like, you don't even have to be that far right. You can be central, center. You don't have to be 100% for the right or the left. But if you're still trying to figure out what the country wants, it's an 80, it's been said, it's an 80-20 issue.
Right.
And if it's like you want to die on this hill every single time. This is the easiest one to not to support.
It's a narrative though that they can't depart from.
What are
equality? Equality.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, in politics, on politics, it's teams, and you have to be opposed to whatever the other team is for.
Right. Yeah.
So it's almost like it's a given.
Yeah.
You're for this, we're for that.
Right.
Regardless of logic.
Yeah, because you're just trying to rally a base, right?
But then they're like, we're for women, but it's like they're the establishment for the women, and then they vote. They don't support the women that are actually out there saying we cannot have these men, transgender, transitional men coming into our arena and taking the golds from us, causing injuries that are unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. And I think they say there's not that many transgender men in women's sports, but it's the path we are going down.
Oh, they do say that. I think there was a congresswoman was just saying it the other day. She's like, there's like 10. Right. And I'm like, well, that's 10 too many as far as I'm concerned. I don't give a shit.
But it's 10 today.
Yeah, right.
If you keep going down that road, it will grow. It'll keep going.
Yeah.
And so I think you got to base it on principle. Is it the right thing to do, or is it the wrong thing to do? Rather, how bad of a wrong thing is it? Mm-hmm. And so politics, the more I analyze it, it's 2 teams. It's easier for people to sign up for a team, wear the jersey, and be on Team Democrat or Team Republican.
Right.
Because then it's easy to make decisions. My decision is to wear this jersey, and whatever this team stands for, that's what I stand for. It's a blanket decision, and rather than thinking critically about each issue and going, because when I go across the board, I go, on this, I believe this. On this, I believe this. On this, I believe this. And it's not like you can collect all the information, but you collect the information you can and go, what do I stand for as a person? and some things are on the left, and some things are on the right, more right. Just given my background.
Do you think if you removed that little D and R in the parentheses on the ballot, if you removed it from the lower third when they're airing the news, if you just start removing the label, do you think people will vote based on somebody's opinion of the issues, or do you think they're going to vote?
I think overall,
like, can you remove the two-party system from the U.S.?
I don't think you can at this point. I think that's what's
too entrenched.
Well, I think that's what Elon Musk is pointing out with Doge, and what he's saying. You know, he said this on Joe Rogan, where he says what they're finding is that these nonprofit organizations that are propped up, and he says that there's literally millions of these, you know, that are taking money from DC,
the NGOs,
the NGOs. In terms of, like, you know, getting donations, grants, and whatnot, and then they're funneling it right back into the party,
right,
that gave them the money.
Yep.
It's this endless cycle of, you know, I mean, and that's what makes the world go around, right? It comes back to the what's the saying? Follow the money.
Yeah.
Follow the money, and that's what they're doing.
Word on the street, and I don't know, you know, I haven't fact checked this, but it's 90 to 95% in a lot of instances. And there's millions of them.
As far as the dollars being funneled back into the party.
Back.
Yes.
Yeah, only like 5 to 10% being used for the issue the money's being allocated for.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're, you know, just not to be ripping anything off, you know, I mean, Joe Rogan is a legend at this point, and his shows are amazing. But it's like they're having this conversation. Well, this conversation is not just being had in that studio. It's being had everywhere now.
Right.
And that's really, I think, the point is the exposure. I mean, we always knew, I mean, come on. We've always known that government it's dirty. It's messy.
Yeah.
It's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, they talk about it at the firehouses. I promise you that. Just along with religion and you know, all the other things. And they, you know, there are some things
it's like reality TV.
It is. It really is, you know, reality TV. And firefighters do it best, is when they can just sit there and just pick at everything.
What sucks is those actors actually get to influence your life.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's really what it does come down to, is when you take the joke out of it.
Yeah.
And you stop, you know, joking about it. I think that, again, goes back to some of the credit I do believe that Musk deserves. He's the richest person on the planet. Trump has said it over and over. He doesn't have to do this.
Yeah.
This is not, he doesn't have to be doing this. He could be out there making another $40 billion launching rockets, which they did. And actually, we'll jump into that for here in a minute. They just lost, I think, a Starship, or one of their rockets blew up on launch here this week. But I'll come back to that in a second. But no, as we just kind of wrap up this conversation about, you know, what's really happening in our government, I don't know that it's something new. I think it's just being discussed and exposed and talked about in a different way.
I do think, too, though, that there's less personal investment in understanding the people that we're voting for. Because, like you said, Rob, I think it's so easy to just kind of go down the ballot and go R, 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 D, 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 and go, well, if it's a D, then they're probably going to think the way I think and feel the way I feel about these issues. And so you don't actually ever look into the person, right? I think a lot of people are just walking in and going just all the way down the aisle, their side of the aisle. And if we removed those little initials, like, I wonder how much time would people start investing into actually reading, like, a voter guide, or better understanding I'm thinking local level too. I'm not just talking about state and federal, but even at the local level. Okay, you're voting for judges, you're voting for coroners, you're voting for, like, there's all these positions that you're voting for. Do you know these people that are in your own city? You know, how much time that's the thing.
No.
I think it'd be kind of cool, actually, to, even if you're going to keep a Republican Party, a Democratic Party, whatever, if you just eliminate those initials from a ballot, I think it would change.
I think what you're driving at is we go into the voting booth and we see, you know, on the piece of paper, and you'll know the high level names.
Yeah.
But then you'll get down to do you want this person or that person for road commissioner?
Right.
And it's like, I don't know either of them. I don't know. And then to your point, you look at
I'll vote the man or woman that's got my initial next to it.
I think if you remove the R and the D, it would require those running for office to explain themselves better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because right now they just bank on the R and the D and then just slinging mud, where it's like, all right, I need to know this person based on their name and who they are rather than the R and the D.
Right.
So what do you really think? What are the issues? But that requires people to do their homework.
Right.
You know, and people are, a lot of people are pressed for time. You know, they're just trying to keep up with staying relevant in their job and career. And they don't have the time to. And then there's people who are just lazy and don't want to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So that would require you to go, all right, for me, if I were looking at two names and I didn't know what they stood for, I'd be like, I'm passing.
Right.
I don't know these people.
Vote. Yeah.
I don't know like what I'm voting for. Oh, this isn't, my name's Rob. I'm voting for Rob.
My name starts with a W and their name starts with a W. I'm going to go with that.
Seems like a good guy.
Yeah.
You got your magic 8-ball in the voting booth.
and then you walk out and get the sticker. I voted. You know,
I voted,
it's like, yeah, good job.
Who'd you vote for? I don't remember.
I mean, I'll go. Let's be supportive of the fact that I love the fact in America we get to vote. I mean, that in and of itself, precious. Thank God that we have that system. And I think we've exposed a little bit of the conversation about, should the little letters show up next to their names. I don't know if a better way to do it. Obviously, there's been efforts in the past for other parties to get involved, whether it's the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, whatever. There's always kind of another faction out there that's trying to figure out a way to horn in. But I guess I just circle back to Rob, your question about I think it's just gotten to be too big for these two parties. They understand the power game. They know how to do the tug of war, and I think they like doing it. I think it's actually pretty fake in a lot of ways. I looked at that address, and the left sitting there on their hands, and they can't eat. The one the representative from Texas, Alan Green, he gets removed. He's shouting, you didn't get it. You don't have a mandate. Yes, he did. Yes, he does. I'm sorry. He's got a mandate. He won every swing state. He moved, something like over 80% of the counties across America. Yeah. Across the country to, he moved them by points to the right. It is a mandate. But I still sit there and I go, I don't think that these people believe what they actually are. Yeah.
I think there are some that do. Like, I think there are some that feel.
I think they just like the power.
Well, I think they feel like their position on the issues is so righteous that they can't imagine anybody disagreeing with them.
The reason why I say that, though, that is because you can literally go back just a few years, 5, maybe 10 years. You can literally see Elizabeth Warren saying exactly what is being said today. We got to find the money. Yeah. And if we find the money and we find that it's being used in nefarious ways, then somebody should be held accountable. Right. She's literally saying that.
About somebody else.
Yeah, about someone else. And then fast forward years later, and now, she's screaming at the top of her lungs that, Elon is we didn't elect him and we don't want this, we don't need this. Right. It's because they don't want to be exposed and they don't want their power to be taken from them.
And he's not in the club.
He's not in the club. You know why? Because he built his own club. It's going to be on Mars.
That's right.
Well, it's amazing the pushback on the audit. I mean, it seems like perfect logical sense. I mean, we run a business and we're being scrutinized, and so what is the tolerance for mishandling of money? What is the tolerance for corruption? And it seems like if it's the wrong team finding the corruption, the tolerance is infinite.
Yeah.
I don't care what they waste,
and no one goes to jail.
As long as Elon Musk is finding it, I don't care how much they're wasting or how much corruption there is. If it's Elon finding it, I'll take it on the chin.
Yeah. I think too, there's a lot of systems that have been propped up around the waste, or, you know, in some cases, the intentional misappropriation of dollars. So there's systems that have been propped up to, in a sense, wash that money. And those systems are sometimes built of good people, right? So you've got, okay, locally, we've got a Social Security office that they're talking about closing, right? Doge has that office, that specific building on their list of potential places to close to save real estate dollars. Well, they're probably right. It's probably unnecessary. It's probably wasteful, but there also might be really good people working there that depend on that job for a living and all, and they have been sold, we need you to do this. Please come work for us, and this is your job now. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's not to disregard the fact that there are legitimate systems that have been built up that this money is being funneled through, and there's going to be some pain felt as we start to dismantle those systems. And unfortunately, it's not always going to affect the people that are benefiting from the system. Sometimes it's just going to affect the worker,
Right.
Which sucks. So,
Can we dismantle the DMV?
I think we
Because those
probably
people
could with an
suck.
app.
My wife went to the DMV the other day, and it's by appointment only now. And she said it was the most pleasant experience she's ever had at the DMV. She was in and out
Really?
in like 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Great.
Wow.
That only took a century.
They're like by appointment only, and she didn't have an appointment, so she went out into the parking lot and scheduled an appointment online and went back in.
No, hey.
But how many people just leave?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like,
But-
I guess I'm not going to have a license.
But if that's the case, then either dismantling the system or making adjustments to the system is a
Yeah.
positive thing.
Efficiency doesn't always mean ending something.
No, it does not.
Yeah.
Any business person that goes in and brings a company back to life on the brink of bankruptcy
Yeah.
is gonna be messy.
and
It's
you know-
messy. I've heard the story over and over. I know one organization, and it's our church that we go to, and they were on the brink of not making it.
Right.
Currently, they're healthy. They're doing great. Our church is, helping a lot of people, and but when our pastor took over, it was not. It was on the edge of gone. When he turned that around at the beginning, he had to let a lot of people go.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have the money for this, and if we're going to survive, we got to make some really tough choices. It was unpopular.
Yeah.
It was not pretty. A lot of pushback, people that were there a long time, and so you got to be able to stomach that. And it's not that you don't care about these programs, these people. It's that we have to survive, and we have to restructure in a healthy way that makes sense. And
I think you bring up a great point there where show me, we're kind of at the very top of the, in the conversation here, we're at the very top level. We're talking about the president and his administration, right? That's very high. But what you're referring to is bring it back home. Show me the organizations, the businesses, the entities that change leadership and they don't go through an overhaul
Right.
of some sort.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that everyone gets terminated. It doesn't mean that everyone gets an email that says, tell me the 5 things you did last week, and everyone gets, butt hurt because it's offensive.
you got to go into each program and go,
Yeah.
how bad is this? Because at a certain point, you just get rid of it and rebuild.
Right.
But there might be instances where it's like we can turn this program around because it's not, we can reform this program versus we got to blow it up with dynamite and rebuild. And so the ones you have to rebuild or rethink how it's, we're talking about the Department of Education. Is that going to the state level? Does that make sense? So it's not that it's, the rebuttal is, they're getting rid of education, any educational programs or structure. And it's like, no, we're just going to do this a different way that makes more sense and push it to the states. So they make it look like it's the worst case scenario of we just don't care about kids. We don't care about kids and their education. No, I think our educational program is ranked pretty low. So
Very.
yeah, like 40th.
It's
40th,
too important to keep doing it the way that we've been doing it. Yeah,
Right.
I think is the argument.
It's not because we don't care. It's because we care enough to go, this has got to be done a different way because it's
You're
clearly
admitting
not
that
working.
the way we're doing it is not working.
Right. Not entirely. I mean,
Right.
again, there's no black and white here.
No.
There's
Like at least half of kids can read, so it's got to be.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I think that we're, the education system is a difficult thing to tackle because when you hold ours up against other countries in the world, we're not horrible, but we're certainly not where we were in the past.
Well, we've put so much on, and this is we'll tighten this up a little bit here.
Yeah.
I like that we're talking about the education because I just asked the question about how, are all of our systems broken or are they just not functioning the way that we wish them to be functioning?
Yeah.
So we're getting into, some overhaul of all these different types of systems. There's not one way to do it. When we talk about the education system, I think it's something to not overlook is there are real people who are invested in to educate our youth. Like they believe that they were empowered, they're put on this planet to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I would thank them 100 times over for what they do. I think what we're failing to see on the education side is that we have put so much on the teacher to do the basics because we have dysfunctional families. We have, and when I mean by dysfunctional, I mean like the family unit in the United States of America, it's not even recognizable.
Right.
And for a number of reasons.
Filling the role of
and so they're
developing social skills, not just education. And they're not often supported by their administration.
If you have a single mom that is having to work 2 jobs at a minimum.
Yeah.
Because we've heard the story. There's some people out there working 3 jobs.
Right.
And they have a child. Does that mom actually have time to and they may want to. They may have everything in their heart to say, I need to sit with my child at the end of my day and go over reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yeah.
But do they have anything left in the gas tank to be able to do that? So therefore, it does end up falling back to who? The teacher.
Yeah.
Now all the teachers are overwhelmed.
Well, I think you've mentioned before common sense practices
Yes.
when it comes to all of these systems, and I think education system's no different. Like we need to start using common sense.
Yeah.
Because there is
Common core sense or just common sense?
No. But
Nice try.
even at that,
That'll be for another episode.
even at that, teachers aren't being supported by their administrations because their administrations are so afraid of liability.
Yeah.
So we've also got like this system where the teacher and the administration cannot correct the child that they are now responsible to provide social instruction and discipline to. So it's like, okay, not only do we need you to do these things because the family unit often can't do it, but we're also going to tie your hands behind your back and not actually allow you to do the thing that we're asking you to do. Right? It's a mess. It really is.
It is. Go ahead.
Well, I just think the role of the teacher educator is difficult because you're in a school system with all kinds of culture, backgrounds, upbringings, and you're trying to mediate that, but you don't have the power to do it well. You're trying to bring everyone together with the same goal of education, but many of them don't care, don't see the value. They're there because they have to be there. And, my son's in a school where there is a lot of cultural background, and he has witnessed to a lot of things that are outside of our norms and values. And, but, just for the sheer fact that he can be in a class and kids are on their phones and the teacher can't do anything about it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They can't go.
There are school systems out there that are starting to pass rules that they can't have.
No devices.
It's starting.
Yeah.
You know, I've just noticed that is starting to happen.
Sense.
Yeah, common sense, which was again kind of the theme of the State of the Union the other night.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean, there's relevance there in what we're discussing. Great conversation there about just I pretty much kind of bringing it all together under different systems that are either broken, perceived to be broken. They do need to be shored up or supported in a different way. But obviously, all these different things. You cannot keep beating your head against the wall expecting things to just change. You got to do something different.
Yeah, you have to do the hard work.
Well, it's good that you're supposed to identify what's not working and work on it. I mean, nothing exists in a vacuum, and it's either moving forward or moving backwards. And if you're not making an effort to push it forward, it's going to naturally move backwards. Law of thermodynamics, right?
Yeah.
It's going to deconstruct. And so I think you have to
Did you learn
have
that in school?
I don't even know what that word means, but I just use it.
Lots of people
we learned
do
that
that.
in leadership school.
I use it. I
MBA.
try to use it once a day.
Teaching you words that you really don't know the meaning of, but you can say with authority.
I just bank on nobody else knowing what it means.
And
wow, thermodynamics.
Yeah, and all I know is onomatopoeia.
Yeah.
I just use it forcefully. I want to jump over to a couple other things. Well, actually, I have 3 more things in the segment here about what's going on in headlines. So apparently this week, in a joint military effort, training exercise involving, to an extent, the United States military, doing operations with South Korea, and fighter jets that dropped 8 bombs by accident. So they were performing maneuvers and going through some sort of a training exercise. The U.S. did not have any of their jets involved with this, but they were providing some type of like strategic support for the training exercise. But what made that emoji where you get the big wide the eyes that are like where you're stunned.
Yeah.
And so I saw this and I'm like, so fighter jets, they dropped 8 bombs 20 miles from the North Korean border.
Whoops.
And I was like, are we trying to start World War III preemptively for no reason? 20 miles north of or 20 miles from the North Korean border was where this occurred at. Luckily, there was I don't believe there's any loss of life. I don't think so. But
was it truly an accident or was it?
No, it was a miscalculation.
North Korea has been trying to demonstrate their power as of late, and so
that's true. And you're right. I mean, I think I know what you're saying.
the press release could have been, "Oh no,
by
that was an accident.
Yeah,
we accidentally dropped enough bombs to level your capital."
That's
20 miles from the border.
We'll allow that.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know.
That's a good way to look at it.
Conspiracy theorists coming out at me.
That's all right. But I'm like 20 miles from North Korea. What are we trying to do here?
Yeah.
They dropped this, so they were flying over that area, and somebody backed up and leaned, put their butt on the button. Whoops!
Don't push that button. You mean this one?
Yeah.
So that happened, and then and also just to stick with things that fly. So SpaceX, I said I'd come back to this. So what I wanted to bring up though was that SpaceX loses a rocket. It appears to have exploded. But I watched the launch, and have you guys paid attention to how sophisticated we're getting to the point where when you watch a launch on TV, you're up close and personal now.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that. And I watched this last one, and you're so close that I could actually see in the shot, you can see the rotors of the drones that are capturing the image. And it was the most spectacular image of this rocket lifting off of its launch pad. It was like you were there.
Right.
And the drones themselves.
The drones are tracking as it's going up. Right?
Yeah. And I was like, I was fascinated. I'm always fascinated by the rockets and the things that SpaceX is doing. It's great. But I'm also like looking at the drones themselves, and I'm like, man, we created drones that can withstand. I'm assuming that they're from a distance and they're zooming in with high resolution cameras or whatever however they're capturing that. But still, the fact that they're close enough, to absorb the the shock wave, the thermal, the anything
dynamics.
coming, the dynamics that's coming off of that launch.
It's contagious.
It's crazy.
The technology's just getting crazy. And I think in 10 years, we're going to be living in a totally different world of flying cars and hoverboards and people living to 180.
Yeah.
Which creates new problems.
Yeah. We're going to do an episode where we delve into AI. I actually had a little bit here today, but we're going to move past that. But have you guys watched any of these launches?
Yeah. In fact, I've often, as I'm watching them, I'm thinking about the complexities of the person who's actually producing that live stream.
Yeah.
Because they're managing, cameras in control, those drones. They've got sensors that they're putting on screen so that people can kind of understand what's going on, what stage they're in. You're getting audio from comm systems. You're getting audio from outside. There's a lot going on. And it's when they bring it all together, we're sitting here as people who are like scrolling social media all day long. So we're going, oh, just selfie. Guys got the like subconsciously. That's kind of we're not impressed by it, right? Because we're so used to being up close and personal with content. But yeah, the level of technical complexity that is being carried out to make all that stuff come together, and you're live streaming it.
Yeah.
Right? All of that. It's just like, it's pretty mind blowing.
Could you imagine the AV guy in charge of all that? And they're like, God damn it, we lost the rocket, it exploded. And the AV guy's like, well, I lost a drone.
Yeah.
He's just like throwing his mic, he's just so pissed off because a drone went down. They're like,
or he's stoked because he caught a rocket explosion on camera. He's like, I got it.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. He's like, finally.
He's the only guy celebrating in the room.
Yeah. He's like, finally one blew up. Good that nobody was on board that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of rocket was it?
I believe they were testing the rockets that are meant to carry the future starships, believing that people will
go to Mars.
I think this is more for the commercial.
Oh, okay.
This is more for I think it was the starships that they think that people are going to pay to get into and go out into space and go for a ride. That's what's coming.
It's not a great demonstration.
Right. No. A little bit. Let's go back a little bit to the.
It's like Elon breaking the Tesla truck.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh, that never happened until just now.
Katy Perry's going up with in the Jeff Bezos rocket.
Oh yeah,
I think Jeff Bezos is going up with a rocket full of women soon. It's all ladies and him. Yeah. I believe he's going.
Yeah, what's his Blue Horizon? Is that what that is? His company? I think it is, but we'll check that out. All right, it's going into the thing that actually blew my mind. So, reported this week, we've done it. We've actually done it. We have been able to take jeans
from the woolly mammoth.
The woolly mammoth.
Yes. Levi's?
No.
Oh, okay.
And splice them with mice.
Yeah.
And we now have, well, we're going to put a photo up. We now have woolly mice.
They look like gerbils.
We have woolly mice. This was done by Colossal Bioscience out of Dallas.
Yeah.
So Colossal Bioscience has been able to bring these elements together to create the woolly mice. And they predict, and this is like, I've seen Jurassic Park. I think we're fucking around with the wrong thing.
This is Jurassic Park. They're like,
but
go ahead.
So just to finish, they are predicting, what they're hoping for is their strive is for a woolly mammoth-like elephant to have their first calves by 2028.
And they have said, did you say woolly mammoth-like?
Yeah.
Because they have said it will not be a woolly mammoth.
Yes.
It will be a hybrid.
Yep. Yep.
But a close representation of the woolly mammoth.
Yeah, I mean,
What are we
all
going
I
to do
keep-
with those? Are we like?
I know. I'm like, okay,
have you seen
what are we
Jurassic Park?
doing?
Yeah, I mean,
That's what we're doing.
it's-
Like we're gonna get there.
is it for the purposes of a theme park? Or are we
Listen,
going to like milk them?
Listen, this is the backup.
I'm
story.
thinking mammoth smash burgers. That's what I'm thinking. Sounds awesome.
This is
They are
what
delicious.
Yeah, as long as you get all the hair out.
Grass-fed woolly mammoth.
what this is that it's the backup. If AI doesn't destroy us, then
Yeah. Release the mammoth.
then release the mammoths alongside the velociraptors. It'll
Oh my
destroy
gosh.
everything.
It is.
What
It's really intriguing. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty cool, but it's also pretty terrifying because I feel like, man, we're messing with stuff that we don't fully understand
I think
the
we need
consequences
to
of.
mount laser beams to their foreheads and
Yeah.
use
Freaking sharks with freaking lasers.
We have some really angry sea
All I want
bass.
is some freaking sharks with freaking lasers. Is that too much, Dad?
They're very angry sea bass. I
my
guess
gosh.
that'll do. But yeah, and
Number two.
so it was funny because in the same week we go back to the State of the Union,
Right.
And when President Trump is reading down the things that they've exposed and that they've said that this is a waste of money. There's a study on transgender mice,
Right.
So in the same week, we identified that we've got studies for transgender mice, and then we actually created the woolly mouse.
Could we get a transgender woolly mammoth?
So I guess this brings us full circle to for the first part of the show, where it's like we started talking about Beavis and Butthead. And I feel like this would literally be something that Beavis and Butthead would do. They'd be like playing with mice and be like, let's make them transgender. How about a woolly mouse? Ooh, that's even better.
Transgender woolly mouse.
Oh, good Lord. My brain just split. Wow.
What would that look like?
It would look like allocating $3 billion to research.
Yeah.
So,
By the
ladies
way,
and-
that same research lab supports the Democratic Party.
right. So, ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your butts. Woolly mice and the woolly mammoth-like hybrid is coming. Stay tuned.
What do you name the woolly mouse? Like, what would you name it? If you all out there have an idea for a name for a woolly mouse, I want to hear it.
Yeah.
I want one. I'm going to be looking out at Petland.
Wally the woolly mouse.
When are you getting in?
Someone in the mall is going to open a store selling woolly mice, painted turtles and woolly
Get
mice.
your woolly mouse here.
Extinctanimals.com.
Oh my gosh.
Extinctpets.com. I'm buying the domain when I get off.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Here we go. Yeah. So as we move on to our next segment, one of the things that we wanted to do at Original Firefighter is that we appreciate the support and the following that we're getting on all of our platforms. We want to, make sure that if you want to check out who we are, you're going to see us on YouTube. Hit that bell, subscribe, and like. We really appreciate that. But on all the other platforms, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, we appreciate anything that you guys do there to support us. And also make sure to listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can find us, Original Firefighter. We're out there. But we know that you're out there too. And so we wanted to do a little bit of a segment where we check out the comments
All right.
that are starting to come in to, some of our clips, episodes that are on YouTube. And I'll kick it off with a couple things. One, we appreciate the comments. We like the good, we like the bad, and the ugly. We don't care. We can take it. We've got
all
big
part of the
shoulders.
conversation.
It's all part of it.
Yep.
I'm gonna jump off with episode 2. Episode 2 was the episode was called Elvis is in the Building, and he's a firefighter. Near and dear to our heart is a gentleman by the name of Phil Nedved, and he comes into the studio quite often. I particularly think he's got a close resemblance to a young Elvis.
Yeah.
We got pushed back on a couple, and they're like, we don't see it. And I was like, okay, maybe not. But he's a huge Elvis fan, and so I know that this would be a nice shout out to him, and we love to have him on the show. TJ, so we were talking about on this episode that the fire department testing numbers across the board are down. Basically people, we're seeing that the fire service is struggling to recruit. And clearly, we're going to always need firefighters to be out there on the front line. Again, look at just about every night there's something going on.
Yeah.
Fires, hurricanes, mudslides, horrific wildland fires. You name it, there's a firefighter on your screen most likely. And if there's not, well, then there's always Chicago Fire, which is a really, really, really bad, dumb show. But this episode of the original Firefighter podcast is brought to you by Benny's Slots, Wine, Spirits, and Empire Gaming. With 3 locations serving the Rockford area in Roscoe, McChesney Park at Nest, and Cherry Valley at the Harley-Davidson store, Benny's is the place with taste and enough luck to go around for everyone, provided by Empire Gaming. Each location offers fun and entertainment with weekly sports, events, drawings, and live music in a plush environment. As a side note, I recently had my retirement party this past summer at Benny's at Nest in McChesney Park, and they gave us the VIP experience all around. For the best atmosphere, for the best entertainment, head to Benny's for good drinks, good friends, and good times. Stop in at a Benny's location near you today. So TJ6607 left us a comment and says that he aged out before they could get hired in a career department. So I think that's interesting because there are people that they take these tests, they get onto a list, and then they sit there. And I think that, I'm pretty sure that what happens is that we know that there's a need for the replenishment.
Right.
But these communities, they run such a tight budget that they either can't afford it. And it's kind of this weird dichotomy of, that you need it, but you can't pay for it.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, we're always coming back to the citizen, the taxpayer. You're going back to the same well.
So saying testing numbers are down doesn't always mean that a department is sitting there with an empty seat that they can't fill.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So sometimes it's both. Sometimes they need to add seats and can't afford to. And sometimes testing numbers are down.
Yeah.
They can't get the right people.
Well, and I think if you sit there, another way to look at this too is that if you're taking these tests and you're sitting there, you're not getting any calls, you're not getting hired, you move on.
Right.
Because you got to go work, you got to go get you got to bring an income into your household. So they move on and they never realize, it never comes to fruition that they get to, fulfill their dream to be in this profession. So
that's got to be really frustrating to hear that numbers are down. You want to be a part of it, of the thing. You go, you test for it, you get on the list, and then you are never brought in.
Right.
Right. So what's your advice to somebody like that? Because he can't be the only one, right?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, are testing numbers down for the physical aspect, or is it because of the written aspect? Because I hear, I don't know what the number is, but like 1 in 10 kids are healthy enough to be in the military. I mean, it was a low number, and it was just talking about the health.
It seems to me like we're just hearing more about there's less of an interest and a desire to make a career out of firefighting.
Well, again, I mean, based on just the comments that are coming in, there's a wide spectrum.
So you're saying numbers are down of people trying to test into
right?
Okay,
yeah,
they're not just failing the test.
No, they're not just failing the test. Basically, so I'll give you an example. Leaving names out, department names out. But for example, I know of a department that, I'll use myself as the example, is that in 1996, I tested with over 1,000 applicants. Okay, in 96. Mm-hmm. So again, it's been a minute.
Almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute. But if you take that and you kind of, extrapolate that and you arrive at the year 2025, well, this past year, the department that I was with, they only had over about 200 that turned out.
Wow.
Now, again, that's not speaking for everybody. There are some departments in some cities that have no issue getting people to apply. But if you look at the over about 20 years, the population growing to what it is today, and then the number of applicants that are trying to get into this profession, the population has grown, and the population that wants to get into the fire service has dramatically dropped. And it's for a number of reasons. I mean, the pay has not kept up. The working conditions have gotten very, they've gotten pretty tiresome. It's not the days where, and it shouldn't be about like, I was never all right with like, let's go to the fire station on my work days and then expect to sit in the recliner all day.
Right.
Bullshit.
Do you think that's why?
Not
is that
what
the,
that's for?
Is that the root cause of not testing though? Because how many people know how much a firefighter makes or the conditions before they test in? Or is it a...
Well, I think you see that. I think
PR thing where, people just don't, it doesn't even cross their mind for a lot of high schoolers.
Yeah.
That they're gearing up, when you're in high school, you're thinking, oh, what do I want to go into? Well, I want to do something with AI. I want to do something with...
I want to be a YouTuber.
I want to be a YouTuber. Yeah. I mean, there's actually a degree in becoming a professional influencer in colleges now. And that looks glamorous. They're watching YouTubers and they're like, wow, they get to travel the world and film themselves.
I've been very heavy on the fact that we're not producing the same caliber of individuals that can understand that. And when I say that, it's the exposure. We don't have the kids anymore that are walking off the farm and then coming into the firehouse and understand that work is dirty. It's smelly. It sucks. It's hot. You are uncomfortable all the time. You're overweight. You're either way too hot or you're way too cold. Freezing your ass off in the middle of the winter outside, exposed to the elements. I mean, it's not fun in a lot of aspects. It's fun. The time at the firehouse is a lot of fun. Being with the people that you work with, the jokes and the pranks and the having the meals together, and the camaraderie that comes from that's a lot of fun. The calls can be exciting depending on what you go out on. You go out on a lot of structure fires, you're having a lot of fun. You go out on a lot of medical calls, a ton of medical calls, and I already know 80% of the fire calls are medical related. That's there. I always have a thought about that when people say, well, 80% of the calls are medical. It's like, yeah, I know. The point for still having a strong fire force is that when you have a fire, that tends to be the most detrimental type call. You have possible rescue, you have loss of property, you have the threat of other property being burned down at the same time that this, the first fire that you're going to could extend to another house. So there's a reason to still bring 18, 19, 20, 22 people to a fire.
Right.
Even if they don't happen that often, it's that when they do, they tend to be kind of pretty bad, right? Versus of the 80% of the medical calls, probably only about 50% of them rise to criticality. You have a lot of low acuity type calls in there. So to go through. So,
but I still think it could be exposure and PR because
absolutely,
whatever you go into, you're talking about the downsides, some of the upsides. There are downsides to everything.
Yeah.
You go get a business degree and you sit in a cubicle and make phone calls all day and work on a commission job. There's a lot of downside to that. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of talking to people that don't want to talk to you. And there's a lot of downside. There's a downside to every job you go into. There's a lot of upsides of being a firefighter. The camaraderie. A lot of people go into the workforce and don't have camaraderie. They don't, they lose the relationships in their lives that they had when they were in high school or college. You feel like you're isolated because you're sitting in this cubicle all day. I
mean, if you want to go into a profession where you literally don't do the same thing every day, this is the profession for you. If you don't want the now again, going out on 8, 9, 12, 15 medical calls in one shift, that in and of itself can feel routine. You can kind of get into this rinse, wash, repeat type thing. And I get that. I get how that can feel. But if you think that you're going to the same medical call every single day, every single shift, you probably are to a degree. There's always someone sick. There's always someone who needlessly calls. but then you're also going to the car wrecks. And then you're going to the hazmat type call. And then you're going to the dumpster fire and the car fire. And maybe you catch a structure fire. And then you're going to, a violent call. Then you're helping someone that has diabetes and you're bringing them, you're bringing their glucose level up. You go to a drug overdose and, we make it the best that we can do with what we're given.
Yeah.
And you're mostly never doing the same thing over and over and over.
Being a firefighter, it's important to stay physically and mentally fit.
Yeah.
You go into a lot of jobs, it's important to stay mentally fit, but you get fat and lazy because you sit in a chair all day.
Right.
Right.
So to me, it sounds great.
Yeah.
I want to be physically and mentally fit.
Yeah.
And there's a reason to do both.
It's a super fun profession. I mean, it's again, you can have the time of your life, or you can be what I've called the bleacher creature, that you hate everything and you're probably the guy that doesn't want it. No one wants to hang around you anyways. Yeah. So I don't know what to say about that. Moving on to episode 4. This was the original conversation, and this was actually us.
Yeah.
The first time
right.
that we were in the studio together, and you guys came up with your own quiz show towards me. So FLHRXS18 caught me and said, how did you not get Chicago?
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's right. That was the top 5.
It's fair.
That was the top 5 fire districts by, I think, size and operation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
So so the question,
Chicago was the missed one.
Yeah, and I totally blanked Chicago.
And you were rattling them off.
Oh yeah.
And you just stopped. It's like, it's like right next door.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Chicago.
Yeah.
So FDNY, LA City, LA County, Chicago, and Houston are the 5 largest departments in the United States. So then that kind of brings us to when we did the short skit where we did the firefighter
city manager.
No, we'll come to that in a second.
Right.
But when we did the transitioning, where it was me putting on the different sets of gear for the ranks,
Yeah.
And Lucas, I'm going to say McCain says he just put chief in gear with a surprise emoji, and I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, I got the point. It was like,
totally.
So the chief being in gear, and I was like, how rare is that?
I mean, it depends on the size of the district you're operating in, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be working chiefs that are working fires.
Well, that's what I always was. That's what we use the term district chief, but it's basically the battalion chief.
Yeah.
So, I was, I at least had on my helmet and my coat.
We talked about that when we were filming it. Is should we be changing everything?
Right.
And we were like, yeah, but we got to go to lunch. So we got to get going on this.
Also, people, it's TikTok. Like, I'm sorry, it's not going to be 100% accurate all the time.
Right.
You're misrepresenting the position.
Yeah.
Yeah, get it together, man.
Well,
you're a resident expert. How did you not catch that?
Yeah. That's Tychus. That's where going to the next skit, which is we like to do this one, and we're going to have some more coming. The Every Town USA skit.
Every Town USA. Yeah.
And what we'd like to say there is that with the Every Town USA, it's like we know that it's not. We're not saying it's apples to apples.
Right.
But we're
satire.
Yeah, it's satire for sure. But what we're trying to say is that if there's any department that just takes it in the nuts on the budget, it's the fire department.
Yeah.
I looked at one community to the north of us here, and their fire department is the police department is the budget is like 3 times the fire department's budget. And there's reason for that. I mean, don't get me wrong. That law enforcement and the keeping our streets safe and having,
it's not apples to apples.
It's not apples to apples. No,
depends on your community too.
But the fire department, it does. It takes it in the shorts.
Yeah, but the police department is a revenue stream. Writing those tickets.
Writing the tickets. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess there is some of that, isn't there?
Do you guys get to write citations for like inspections?
So some municipalities, they have there's fees, there can be fines.
Yeah. So if there's like a violation in fire safety, in a building?
Yeah, you can levy fees and fines. You could have, like, say, your fire prevention bureau, maybe they do plan review, and so there's a fee to that.
Right.
You could have fines for, like, if you're violating, I don't know, open burning, or have other major infractions during the fire inspection process. I mean, yeah, you could create fees. Most of the time, anything that's that's getting written as a, like you're going to have to pay us something. The biggest thing is ambulance billing.
Sure.
And that's a very real, you can capture, you're not capturing every dollar, but you're being recouped quite a bit of the cost. And the thing and this is where the Everytown USA, kind of comes into play. And the jabs that we're making is that even if the fire department brings in money, they don't typically bring it into their, like, it doesn't come straight back into their budget.
Right.
It goes into the city coffers as a whole. And then every year the fire department still has to fight for everything that they want or need.
Yeah.
So nothing is made easy. That's just the reality.
You should work as an Uber driver in between calls, make some money.
Well, I'm sure that there's plenty of...
Put that ambulance to work.
I'm sure that there's a lot of firefighters that are doing that.
Uber Black and an ambulance shows up.
Picked up at the bar in an ambulance.
Just get like a magnetic party bus sticker that goes on the side.
Keeping in line with talking about the skits, so we did the USA traditional fire helmet versus the Euro.
Right, yeah.
I call it the Euro trash fire helmet. Get that Euro trash out of here. But surprisingly on this, when we did this skit, we actually got quite a few people that were they were okay, or they were
practical people.
They were for the European helmet. I would never be. I was just watching this video the other day about how they make the United States, the USA fire helmet, the traditional helmet. And it's an amazing process. I love it. It's how they mold it and the stitching and everything that goes along with it. But I mean, hey, I'm old school in that regard. And what I appreciate is Joe Bornstein, he left a comment that says, "I'll go back to long jackets and hip waders before I'd wear that piss pot."
That's awesome.
So Joe, we appreciate that one.
Come see us.
We appreciate that.
FDIC, you're our people.
Yep.
That's great.
So I think he nailed it. He nailed it.
I think it's kind of parallel to like the NFL stuff right now too, with the helmets. Like,
yeah,
there's a case to be made for safety over tradition, but who wants to wear that thing? Who wants to run around looking like a bobblehead all day?
Right. Exactly. Toughen up, Buttercup.
I wouldn't say that.
As we're talking about traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, totally.
It's terrible.
When are they going to start 3D printing them to look like stormtrooper helmets?
Ooh,
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Episode 11 was
not.
What's that? Say that again. Oh, episode 11. It was the chauffeur. We had the chauffeur. We had our
Rich Mercado.
We had our good friend from FDNY on the show. And one of the comments was made by the Dad Show podcast. So we're shouting out to the Dad Show podcast. And Ryan Ladd says we should get together and do a pod.
Yeah.
So we're coming back to that, and we're saying the Dad Show podcast, Ryan, let's get together and do a show.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's figure it out. Leave us a message at info@originalfirefighter.com if you want to do that together. Caleb also leaves a comment on this one. He says, trucks are built on culture. Engines are just engines. And I know exactly what he's talking about. So, there's kind of been always this struggle in the fire service where if you're on an engine company and you're on a truck company, there's a rivalry, right?
Sure, yep.
And the oddball one is if you're on a squad company, and that's the other like if you're on a squad, it's like
elite.
I'm the squad guy. Yeah, you truckies and engine boys, like you just go away. We got this. But in reality, I've always been a ladder truck guy. I loved the fact that when I went to a fire on a ladder truck. When you go to work, you go in so many directions.
Yeah.
There's so many things to get done. Usually it falls to the truck companies to get a lot of tasks done.
You're breaching, you're venting,
Yep.
yeah.
We went on that
Placing
call.
ladders.
We went on that call
Yep.
with you to that abandoned building fire.
Yeah.
And that was one of the coolest things I saw was that guy climbing the ladder.
Yep.
I'm like, that is just badass.
I think that same building was on fire last week again.
It was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yeah, they tend to keep having some problems there. But so the engine versus truck versus squad mentality, it still rages on. I'm sure it's thick in some departments. You know, you go in Chicago and
Sure,
the big ones, the biggest of the big, and you know, if you're on any of these companies, even if you're on the engines, I mean, you protect it.
Yeah.
That's your company. You believe in it, right? And if you are on the engine company, I mean, let's face it. I mean, they put the fire out. You know, that hose better be moving towards the seat of the fire,
Right.
and you know they're getting their asses kicked too. But I just loved the aspect of truck company operations and everything that you got to do. It was never boring, never. You know. So another one to really bring to light here is episode 14, which was the ambulance is not a taxi. And the comments, I mean, actually, I didn't even pick out just one comment because it was collectively so good.
Yeah.
We had tons of likes and hundreds of comments, and they were, you can definitely tell that the medics, the firefighters, they're just tired of the ambulances being abused. And they are. It's just
Right.
it's very, very bad how much these ambulances out there. It's everywhere, and how bad they're abused, and how poorly the general public, how poorly we understand when to use and call 911, when that you actually need an ambulance. You know, versus
So what
going
exactly is happening? I'd like to understand this more because I've heard the story of people calling an ambulance to get to the other side of town, and then calling an ambulance to get back at the end of the day, because they're obligated to bring them to the hospital. Hospitals are on different sides of town, so they got to bring them to that ER, and then they just don't even go to the ER. They just walk out and leave. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll confirm that. I mean, the days that I spent on the ambulance, I absolutely had people. I had people that called the ambulance from a payphone across the street from an ER. I'm not making that up. I mean, I really just dated myself there, but payphone.
Yeah.
I wish I would have known that. I wish I would have known that in college.
But yeah, I mean,
how many times did I walk to class in the blizzard and I could have just called an ambulance?
There's people that have called 911 for the ambulance. I'd be on the ambulance, show up, and they'd say, I want to go to the hospital in the middle of town. You know, there's 3 hospitals here. So they go to the hospital in the middle of town. You'd take them there. They would go in, sign out against medical advice, AMA, without really being checked of anything. Or they'd walk in with you, and then they'd go through the lobby. They'd come right back out. And what it turned out to be is that they were just trying to get closer to the location that they were trying to get to.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, so truly treating it like a taxi, like 100%. So, I mean, and these are, some of the worst case scenarios. Really what I'm driving at is I come back, this particular episode, just for a moment, just come back to the population, our public, it needs to start thinking of, again, we need to be bringing them back to 911. What is it properly used for? Here are the reasons why. There should be universal campaigns out there, just like changing your smoke detector, twice a year. I mean, there should be a universal national public campaign of this is what 911 is for.
So you think that's the solution, or because I don't think those people will care?
I think it's a part of it. I don't think that there's. So I will always say that there's not one thing to do. It's a culmination of things to do. But I do think it begins with education. Everything begins with education, and I think that we've lost focus of what 911 was built for. What was it really put in place for? I mean, this goes back to the show Emergency. Mm-hmm. This was, the first time that the general public even knew that firefighters carried any kind of medical equipment. they didn't know that. They just thought firefighters, had hose and water and ladders, and that's what they did. But all of a sudden the show comes out, and this isn't the only reason, but this is one of the big reasons, was that the show comes out, and you all of a sudden see firefighters from LA County, and they're coming in with AEDs, they're defibrillators, and they're coming in with this, big, tackle box with, some drugs, and they're calling Rampart to get orders for the drugs and things like that. And so there's this like, holy cow, you're bringing a small little ER to the patient's side. Right. And they say that, before that show aired, that there was virtually no paramedics out there. And by the time it went off the air, 5 or 6 years later, I can't exactly remember how many seasons it did, but it did stay on for quite a while. By the time that it was off the air, there were medic programs virtually across the country.
Wow.
Just by the influence of that show. And the influence of that, if you go back to the episodes in that show, which is quite cheesy if you go back, but they're pretty entertaining still, especially to someone in the fire service. You can get a good laugh out of it and have fun. But if you look at most of the medical calls that they go on, they're going on heart attacks and strokes and someone that fell down a cliff.
Yeah.
It's real
immediate
life
need.
And death, immediate need. Whereas fast forward to where we're at today, and it's like, I couldn't find my keys, so I called 911.
Yeah, my toe has been hurting for 14 days now.
So
I think it's probably time I go in and get it checked out.
The system has devolved into this, and again, we kind of have the conversation this whole episode where we talk about systems that are either broken or not functioning the way that they were supposed to.
What happened to hospitals sending out ambulances?
That's still there.
Still a thing.
So how is that determined?
It's just determined by the municipality and its needs, and what it can support. So some places, they still operate hospital-based EMS. The last I knew, like Cedar Rapids, Iowa, still does quite a bit of that. Again, I don't know every department out there that's either not operating ambulances or they are operating ambulances. One of the departments I worked for in the early time in the fire service, where I began, was that they didn't have any ambulance at all. It was done by a third party, like an actual
subcontractor.
No, it wouldn't be like that. It would be like they were their own, within the municipality, they were their own department. Oh. It was an EMS department.
Okay.
So rather than operating fire trucks and firefighters, it just operated ambulances and medics. So there's lots of different models out there. Milwaukee, I know that they use a tiered program where they use, some hospital base, they use subcontracted private ambulances.
Right.
They have some of their own ambulances inside their fire department. So
is this like a case of it being too convenient? Like if it was more convenient for somebody to take mass transit than it was for them to call an ambulance.
I just go back to laziness. Honestly, I'm just going to cut it to the chase. Yeah. I think that we've just gotten to a place where we're over reliant.
I don't want to walk to a bus stop and wait for a bus when I could just call an ambulance.
Yeah, the general public. When I say the general public, that's not everybody out there that's abusing the system.
No,
it's not that. I mean, there's people that call 911 and their loved one is literally dying.
Right. Yeah,
and they need help. It's this underlayer, this underbelly of the system where we just throw everything at the wall and hope that one of the things stick. They've gotten to a point now in a lot of places where, as they're dispatching, they're just dispatching police, fire, and EMS to just about every call. Mm. And then sort of like, well, when you get there, then sort out what's going on.
Yeah, then be released if you're not needed.
And so I look at that and I go, that's what I mean by, if that's actually happening, that's not an efficient system. That's just sort of like, well, look, we don't really know what's going on, so we're just going to throw everything at it, and then they'll sort it out in the street.
Yeah, I mean, it's efficient from the standpoint of the scene, operating the scene. Like if you go to any scene, you're always going to have everything you need at your disposal, and you release what you don't.
And some things are getting better. There are programs out there. There's one of the programs out, ProQA. There's priority dispatching. There's sort of categorizing calls, and you can stack calls and things like that. It's not all one size fits all kind of situation. But the bigger conversation, especially if you look at episode 14 and the number of interactions that we got from that one, and the episode's literally called "Ambulance is Not a Taxi,"
right?
And that's what generated a bunch of feedback, was people that just treat it like a taxi, and a lot of the comments really were that the general public doesn't care because they don't pay the bill, right? And that's true. I mean, I get it, and it's like why care if it doesn't impact your pocketbook,
right?
Then you just abuse it.
Mm-hmm. You mean insurance won't cover that?
Insurance does cover that. They just charge us for
it. Yeah.
So, again, going back to systems and broken systems and things that need to get propped up in some way, shape, or form, I just simply say on this show, we need it. There should be a nationwide one, kind of a big voice that says we need to get. It's almost like we need to reclaim 911.
Yeah,
reclaim it, and. Again, I don't know how I'm not asking for the public to stop calling 911. I'm saying start using our noggins for the reasons that we properly use it.
Yeah.
And so there you go. But yeah, the comments are fun. Some are funny. Some are to the point. They kind of, tell us like it is or how they think about us, and that's fine and it's good. But we do genuinely, appreciate the support that we're getting out there.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, and I'll say too, like a lot of people are commenting. I mean, you're engaging on the platform you're on, so we get a lot of comments on TikTok, on Instagram. But if you want to get more context, around the conversation or maybe the soundbite that you're commenting on, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're releasing these. We're dropping them every Wednesday. So get the whole picture and be a part of the conversation there. Yeah. We may get to the point in the future where the comments that we're reviewing and sharing on this show are the ones that are coming from YouTube, because we know that it's actually, they're taking in the whole episode, not just a 20-second soundbite. Yeah. But we love it. Keep engaging.
Yeah. Well, we love it so much that we are going to be at FDIC in April.
Yeah.
Fire Department Instructor Conference. It is the largest, basically the largest fire department conference that there is. So we are excited about being in Indianapolis at the Lucas Oil Stadium. We'll be in the Ignite Center booth 8439. That'll be where we're at. And Aaron, you're going to kind of let us know what's going on there?
Yeah, we're going to be there the 9th through the 12th. So we'll be there pretty much the whole time it's going on.
Yeah.
Ignite area, this is for like newcomers, which we're one of. And our goal, while we're there, is just to meet you guys. So come see us. We want to hear your stories. We want to just connect with everybody that's listening to the episodes. We'd love to find out if maybe there's some potential guests amongst the crowd there that we could have on the show. And we are going to be incentivizing that effort with a little giveaway, right? So we got something really cool that we're going to be doing. Basically, anybody that walks up to our booth and subscribes to our YouTube channel, you're going to get entered for a chance to win a swag bag full of some cool original Firefighter merch, a lot of the same stuff that we're repping every week when we're on the show, as well as an iPad.
Yeah.
So all you got to do is subscribe to the channel. It's pretty easy.
Yeah. It would be great to get some new guests because we're looking to move to a model where we can handle virtual podcasting.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So you don't have to fly into Rockford. You can do it from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah.
And we can have these discussions with people around the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, we look forward to people coming by and just interacting with us. We're going to have some show specials as well at the booth.
Yeah, we got a really cool new trucker cap coming out that you will only be able to get at FDIC.
And it is an original, and appreciate Rob here. You designed it, laid it out for us, and said this is what we should do, and we agree. It's going to be a fun item for us to promote and to wear. And remember that anytime that you do buy anything from Original Firefighter, we do give back. We have a 5-alarm give back program. We go out there and make sure that we're supporting mental health and wellness. We also support cancer research through 4-3 Sisters, and we also support peer support groups locally and at the national level. We look forward to being at FDIC and interacting with any of the other entities out there that are trying to promote mental health and wellness for firefighters and supporting that cause. Just to bring it back home, remember that at Original Firefighter, don't forget that you are a whole person. It's great to be a firefighter, a paramedic, be a first responder. But, the idea is, what are you doing on your off days? Are you having fun, interacting with your friends and family in a great positive way? And as always, we want you to be safe out there.